So, Amina, it's a pleasure to have you here, that you could really come here. That was like a very far away desire that is real, that's come real for true. It's true now. And tell us a little about the things that you are doing in Greek.
First of all, to say that I am honored, and it was such a big pleasure to be here and to be invited to come along with Renos Papadopoulos and talk about how I use his method mostly in my work, and to have the chance to see how you work and what are the similarities and the differences between your experience with refugees and our experiences with refugees. So thank you for inviting me, and that was a big honor. And you wanted me to say how is my work in Greece. What I do is, first of all, I'm a counseling psychologist. I have a psychoanalytic background, but I mostly use Renos Papadopoulos' model together with psychoanalytic training. And I am a collaborator of an organization called Babel. Vavel.
Yes.
And this is the only mental health day center in Greece that provided assistance to immigrants, to migrants. And it is 10 years old structure. It has been established 10 years ago. And then in 2014, refugee crisis emerged in Greece. So Babel, having this experience before, they were asked to offer really training and support to the NGOs that came to Greece, and had to recruit locals and in order for them to help them to help with the refugees that were coming. So, as a collaborator of Babel, what I'm doing is staff support and supervision in various NGOs.
Okay. So there's a lot of NGOs working as Babel.
A plethora. Every NGO that you know, most of them, I guess, are now in the Greek islands. Or the borders, or even Athens now in hostels for the second phase. They recruit local psychologists who are usually in their first jobs, you know, very young psychologists, just out of the university. Or even, not only psychologists, lawyers, social workers, of course, employability counselors for the one who will be integrated. So this is what I do. I do groups with them.
Okay, so that is very interesting, because you have a different kinds of person working for the same thing and trying to reach an objective. And as you say, something that is difficult is something that is some people that are really out of the university, they've really graduated.
Almost, you know, in the late 20s or mid 20s or early 30s. For us, early 30s in Greece is very, very young.
Yeah, well, it's very young,
still live in their
and
house.
it's just going to get the experience there with you at the.
Or it's their first job.
Yeah, it's the first job.
It's the first job.
It's a bit.
Their first job. They start their first job, and where do they go? To refugee camps.
Yeah, that's it. Working as a first job in a refugee camp has to be tough for them.
It's a challenge.
Yeah, it's a big challenge, and you are the supervisor of them.
Exactly.
So there's a big challenge. What is the most challenging things? Because I'm talking from the psychology side, say like when you study, you don't say like you will go to get the worst things, because in the refugees camp you look a lot of suffer. So you are a supervisor there. So what is the big challenge?
It is refugee camps initially, and then it might be hostels. Or apartments later on, once they are advanced with their papers. The biggest challenge for the professionals, first they get very overwhelmed by the overwhelming realities of these people. and overwhelming realities which have to do with external circumstances.
Yes.
And external circumstances are the situation in which psychologists are the least trained to help with.
Yes.
Because we mostly focus in internal reality, aren't we? So initially psychologists working there, especially the ones who don't have any other experience, but not exclusively them, they feel overwhelmed. And to be honest, I mean, I think that it is very natural for them to feel initially overwhelmed, because it is very difficult. You are exposed to a big degree of suffering, to circumstances that are, these camps are supposed to be welcome temporary accommodations, and they are neither welcoming nor temporary. They end up hosting people.
How long could be temporary?
Years. Years. It could be years. We have families living in camp for more than a year. Camps that are supposed to cater for them for a couple of days.
Or maybe a couple of weeks, but...
Yes, but not for a year, not through the winter, not through the summer.
Yes.
So you have psychologists working with that. And the initial response is one of feeling overwhelmed, feeling really almost immobilized and helpless themselves. So you have the refugees feeling helpless, and then you have the professionals feeling helpless, and there is a mirroring. This is the first this is the initial reaction.
Yeah, the initial line, and I think is a very profound reaction, and have a deep feelings with all the psychologists, lawyers. For lawyers it's difficult too, because a lot of people coming like an immigrant, they don't have papers, or of course they are not legal, and you don't know if they go back, if there's someone there that can catch them emotional and physically. So there's a lot of challenge.
Yes,
not just
for all
the
professionals it is challenging. But I insist that I'm talking about the initial reaction, the initial reaction of everybody, the initial reaction of the refugees themselves, the initial reaction of the professionals involved. Things do change gradually, even if the circumstances continue to be very difficult. Usually, we go beyond the initial reaction, all of us, refugees and professionals together. There is some change.
And what is your role there in all this change, and the supervisor? What is your role?
My role, as with therapy, depends on what it is that they need. Okay. These are two different things, or three different things. We have the individual supervision, we have the group supervision, and we have the staff support groups. The staff when the group is an interdisciplinary one, and you have at the same group lawyers, employability counselors, accountants.
Accountants?
Yes, accountants to help them sort out their papers, psychologists, social workers, nurses. When the group is really interdisciplinary, interdisciplinary, then it is more of staff support group.
Yeah.
They usually talk about the difficulties and the psychological difficulties that they are facing in relation to the problems they are dealing with.
Sure.
When it is mostly psychologists, this is more supervision. They are talking about the case. So it depends.
Yeah.
It depends. And you were asking about what is the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
Okay, so initially it is the overwhelming reality.
Yes.
And how to try to find an area when you will feel less useless.
Okay.
Yes. But then, by trying to understand that this is a human being that is beyond victimhood, victimness, beyond being a victim.
Yeah, it's like they feel like a victim.
But once you understand that they are more than a victim, they are human beings who have resources, who have resilience, who have strengths, who have hope. You might see people in the refugee camps, and the initial reality of them is very difficult, but when then you get to know them and you see that yes, they are in pain, yes, they are in agony, but somehow they still manage to celebrate, they still manage to have fantasies and hopes about their future, they still manage to try to improve their situation, to try to improve their papers, then the picture becomes more complicated, but in a positive sense, because then you get to know the individual or the family, and then you find areas where you can be supportive and work with them. So you encourage the professionals to the totality of the refugee.
So integrated.
And yes, yes, and not only the victim, in order to establish a relationships where, yes, we do talk about the pain, but also we talk about hopes, dreams, resilience.
It's enormous learning for, well, for the person that is the first job, for you as the supervisor, because you have a plethora of people there, multiple culturality and this impression. So what do you think is the biggest learning that you have for you?
For me?
Yes, in this working.
Okay. I think that for me, the most important lesson would be resilience, the degree of resilience that people can demonstrate. The capacity to maintain some of their strength, some of the resilience, to make a fresh start, to keep hoping, to persevering, to be in pain, but also but also continue hoping and trying. This is one lesson, a very important one. And then, after the initial responses, a second stage, I mean, I'm only using stages schematically, it's not really happening in stages, but another area of problems arise in the following sense. Professionals complain that the refugees are not cooperating.
Okay.
Okay?
No.
A bit like what we were talking at JUCONI the
yeah,
other
like,
day.
okay, I'm giving too much and they don't say even thank you.
Yes.
Or instead of saying
they
thank
don't make
you,
progress.
yes. Instead of saying thank you, they are complaining about the thing that they have.
Or even aggressive.
Okay,
Okay. Or, you know, the employability counselor gets them an appointment for a refugee to go to the warehouse to work, and they don't go. And the employability counselor feels very annoyed and very frustrated and angry.
Sure.
But this is important work, because we try to understand what's going on. Because the employability counselor comes and says, okay, I have Ibrahim, let's say, and I found him a job, and I got him an interview, and he didn't show up, not once, but 3 times. And I gave him the map, this is an example, a real example, and I gave him the map to go to the
place, yes.
to the place, and he didn't go 4 times, and I'm so annoyed. So we sit down and talk about it and try to understand what's going on, and very often what's going on is that maybe the team is trying to help Ibrahim. Yes. I'm giving a name, I'm making up a name, with the wrong problem. We're giving him the map to the wrong place. After all, Ibrahim doesn't want to go to the warehouse. He's not there yet. He needs some different degree of assistance, a different form, I should say.
Maybe he needs to be a companion by person to that place.
Maybe he's not ready to go by himself. Maybe he's still recovering.
Or maybe he's afraid.
Suffering. Or maybe Ibrahim, again an example, very close to reality, was a teacher back in Syria, and he doesn't want to go to the warehouse. And the team gets frustrated because the team has an image of how the good student, good compliant refugee should actually take the first opportunity that is given, but things are not as simple as that. And maybe he wants something to be assisted to do something more close to what he did back home. This is an example. And often teams complain that, you know, why should we waste our resources to refugees who do not comply or who do not cooperate.
Yeah.
And then we sit together and talk about it as a group, and we try to understand that this is not necessarily Ibrahim's, again, problem, but it is what we expect, our own expectations.
Yeah.
And maybe there is encouragement to work on the same problem from alternate, or redefine the problem, or also find alternative ways to understand what's going on, and assist in different ways.
Yeah, and just to finish, can you tell a little about what is for you coming here? Because for us, it's a really open perspective to know what is happening in the other side. Because in Mexico, we don't work really in deep with refugees.
Not
it's
yet.
not so. Yes, not
but
yet.
You might.
Yeah, it might be because you know, in Europe, it's a lot of migration between
especially
all these
Greece.
parents. Yeah.
The country that has been the most affected by the refugee crisis because of the war in Syria is this southern corner of Europe.
Yeah, is the place, the nearest place to go, and there's another places on how to move. But what is the benefit for you to come here?
For us to come here.
Okay.
What is the benefit?
Yeah, what is the, you learn something, is something that it could be interesting, you have some...
I don't know where to start.
Okay.
It is so enriching for us to come here. Sometimes you have to leave home to get to understand yourself and to reflect upon similarities and differences, and to realize, you know, to see the same situation from a different perspective, and you know, to add some agility to the way you are experiencing your reality. So that was very refreshing. To be more specific, when we went to Guatemala border,
yes,
and we visited the Project 72.
Okay.
This was an example of a community, a shelter community, which was amazingly inspiring. And this was not the only one, but this is the first that comes into mind. How people really believing that what they should convey to migrants is that they can have a sense of a community and they can have help. And the way he told us about the best practices that he's using, and the way he was, the manager, the way he was really into it. And although there were huge problems and the people seemed to have been through so much suffering, because this was the day that the caravan was coming, and some people were coming there. And it was very, very inspiring to see such a community. But not only, also JUCONI itself, not only with refugees, but I think that the philosophy of JUCONI is amazingly inspiring. The way you try to support problems children face, not by taking them away, not by patronize them, but to support the families where they are, and strength, enhance the strength that they already have. This was very empowering for us to see how it works. And also the other thing that I think I mentioned to you is that how less people complain here, actually, because maybe it's a matter of time. Maybe if we spend more time, I will hear more complaints. But it seems to me that you as a team were so much into it, and so much understanding for even the aggressive behaviors or the uncooperative behaviors of your beneficiaries, as we call them. You don't use this word. So it was really inspiring to see you guys work together on these goals.
Oh, thank you so much. It was very nice.
Very
inspiring interview with you.
I was honored, and it was a lovely experience to be here and talking to you and everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So.